Jason never expected his life to change when he signed the paper. It was just another boring form at the interspecies university, one of the many rules humans had to follow after joining the Galactic Exchange Program. To him, it sounded like a small adventure. He thought maybe he would get a roommate who looked different, maybe had a few extra arms, or maybe one of those tall, insect-like students who always kept to themselves. He didn't expect anything more than awkward silence, a few polite greetings, and sharing a fridge. He wasn't prepared for Sarah. The day she arrived, Jason was sitting at his desk, soldering wires into a rough metal frame. His room smelled of oil, metal dust, and the faint burned scent of wire insulation. He always worked on small projects. It was the only thing that calmed him when the world felt too overwhelming. Humans weren't exactly popular in the galaxy, so building things kept him grounded. When the door opened, Jason looked up. His tool almost slipped from his hand. Sarah stepped inside like a piece of living starlight. She was tall, at least a head taller than him, with skin that shimmered blue and silver as if her body reflected unseen suns. Her hair floated slightly around her head, moving like it was underwater, glowing faintly with silver strands, and her eyes, two pools of liquid light, watched him with an intensity that made Jason feel exposed, like she could see every hidden thought. Jason quickly stood, wiping grease on his jeans. Hi. You must be my new roommate." Her voice came out calm, melodic, every word carrying a strange rhythm like soft music. "Yes, I am Sarah of the Lume." He blinked. He had heard of the Lume. Some said they were an ancient people full of wisdom and grace, a race that lived among the stars in floating cities powered by energy fields. But he had never seen one up close. They were considered untouchable. Jason scratched the back of his neck. "I'm Jason, just Jason." For a moment, silence stretched between them. She studied his desk, where his tools and half-finished project sat. Jason felt embarrassed. His things looked crude compared to the clean, elegant devices alien students often carried. His workbench was messy, wires sticking out in every direction, metal plates scratched, bolts half-tightened. It was the work of clumsy human hands trying to understand a universe of technology far beyond them. But instead of disgust, Sarah tilted her head with curiosity. "You made this?" she asked softly. Jason nodded, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just a hobby. Helps me think." Her silver blue fingers brushed near the machine but stopped short of touching it. Her eyes lingered, shining with something Jason couldn't name. Then, without another word, she placed her small bags on the other side of the room and began arranging her things. The first week was strange. Jason tried to give her space, worried he would say something stupid. Asura was polite but distant. She moved gracefully, every step measured, every action controlled. She read glowing crystal tablets at night, humming low songs that sounded like echoes in a cave. Jason would often catch himself staring, not out of attraction, though she was beautiful, but out of sheer wonder. She seemed so different, so far beyond him, and yet she was there, living in the same small dorm room under the same dim ceiling light. Sometimes, though, he noticed her watching him. Not when he was eating or reading, but when he worked. Jason had always been drawn to building things. He didn't have the best grades, didn't have much money, but give him a pile of scrap and some tools and he could lose himself for hours. He would cut, weld, and shape, not even knowing exactly what he was making until it began to take form. It was messy, it was rough, but it was his. And Sarah always lingered nearby when he worked. One evening, Jason was tightening a bolt with his old wrench, the handle worn smooth from years of use. Sarah was sitting on her bed, her eyes fixed on him. He tried to ignore it, but eventually he chuckled nervously. "What? Do I look that strange when I'm working?" he asked. Her gaze didn't move. "No, you look alive," Jason blinked. "Alive?" She nodded slowly. "Your hands, they move with purpose. Every strike, every motion, even when you are unsure, you continue. It is rare to see." He laughed awkwardly, rubbing his neck. "It's just habit. My dad used to fix everything in the house. Guess I picked it up." Sarah tilted her head as if trying to understand.
"On my world, no one does this."
"Machines build machines. We only guide them. To shape metal with bare hands, it is strange," Jason shrugged. "Well, maybe I'm strange." For the first time, she smiled. It was small, almost invisible, but it made the room feel warmer. Over the next days, something shifted. Sarah began asking questions. "What does this tool do? Why do you heat the metal before joining it? Why not ask the replicator to make the part for you? Jason answered patiently, though he sometimes felt embarrassed. To him, his work was clumsy compared to the smooth perfection of alien machines, but Asera listened with a focus that surprised him. Her eyes widened when he explained how he could feel the difference in tension by touch, or how he could guess when a wire was about to snap by its faint vibration. "You trust your senses," she whispered once. "Not the machine." Jason frowned. "Well, yeah. Don't you?" Her expression darkened slightly. "Not anymore." That answer stayed with him, though he didn't press her for more. One late night, Jason woke to find Asera standing near his desk. The room was dim, only the small desk lamp glowing faintly. She wasn't touching anything, only staring at the half-built generator he'd been working on for weeks. Her silver eyes shimmered like water in the light. For a moment, Jason thought she looked afraid. "Asera?" he said softly. She turned, startled, then composed herself instantly. "Forgive me. I did not mean to disturb you." Jason sat up in bed. "It's fine, just... What are you doing?" Her gaze lingered on the machine. "I was remembering. Something long forgotten." Jason tilted his head. "What do you mean?" But she only gave him a faint smile, the kind that held secrets. "You will understand. Soon." Jason lay awake long after she returned to bed. He didn't know why, but he felt like his life had just taken a step into something far larger than a messy dorm room. And he had no idea that his simple tools, his human hands, and his stubborn need to build would soon shake Asera's world, and the galaxy beyond. The room was quiet that evening except for the soft hum of Jason's tools. His desk lamp cast a warm glow over wires, bolts, and the half-finished machine that had consumed his free time for weeks. His hands moved with practiced rhythm: tighten, check, adjust, test. For him, this was peace. Across the room, Asera sat silently, her long fingers tracing the surface of a glowing crystal tablet, but her silver-blue eyes were not focused on her reading. They were watching Jason again, following every careful movement of his hands. Jason noticed. He always did. She didn't hide her curiosity anymore. "You know," he said with a small grin, "you watch me work more than anyone ever has. Makes me feel like I'm being graded." Asera's voice was calm, but there was a tension beneath it. "I am not grading you, I am remembering." Jason paused, looking at her. "Remembering what?" She didn't answer. Instead, her gaze dropped to the heavy piece of equipment on his desk. It wasn't pretty. Uneven edges, mismatched parts, wires sticking out like messy hair, but it was sturdy. A small compact generator, one Jason had been piecing together from scavenged parts. "It's almost done," he muttered proudly, turning a bolt one last time. "If this works, it should be able to power the room for a few days without needing a grid connection." He leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. It wasn't fancy, but it was his creation. And that's when he noticed Asera. She had risen from her bed and was standing at his desk, staring at the machine. Her usually calm, serene face was different now, her lips parted slightly, her glowing eyes wide with shock. Her body seemed tense, almost trembling. Jason frowned. "What, did I mess something up?" Asera didn't answer at first. She reached out, her hand hovering over the machine but not touching it, as if it might burn her. Her voice came out low, almost shaking. That is human work?" Jason blinked, caught off guard. Yeah? I mean, I built it." She turned sharply to him, her expression filled with disbelief. "You built this? With your own hands?" He raised an eyebrow, a bit defensive now. "Yeah, I told you I like building stuff. It's nothing special." Her eyes widened even more, and for the first time since they met, Jason saw genuine fear in her face. "Nothing special?" she whispered. "Do you understand what you have made?" Jason laughed awkwardly. "A generator. A small one. It's not like it's some galaxy-breaking invention. Just something to save on power bills." But Asera didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. She stepped back, her silver hair drifting around her like mist. "No, Jason, this is impossible." Jason stared at her, confused. "Impossible? It's just wires and metal. Anyone could make it." Her gaze locked onto his, sharp and intense. "No, not anyone. Not anymore." That night, Asera finally spoke more. She sat across from him, her voice quiet but urgent, as if she were revealing a secret that should never be told. "On my world," she began, "we do not build. We have not built for many lifetimes. Machines create for us. Replicators form what we need. We guide them, yes, but we do not touch. We do not shape. That knowledge, it has been forgotten. Jason frowned, trying to wrap his head around it. Wait, you're saying no one in your species builds things by hand? She shook her head. Not only my people, many across the galaxy, the act of shaping raw material, of making something from nothing with your own hands, it is seen as old, unnecessary. We rely on systems now. Perfect, flawless systems. Jason leaned back in his chair, staring at his calloused hands. So you're saying, this little generator is a big deal to you? Asera's voice trembled slightly. More than you know. What you created here alone with crude tools is worth fortunes on some colonies. Entire guilds of engineers cannot make something so compact without advanced forges and programs. And you? She gestured toward the messy desk. You made it here in your room as if it were nothing. Jason felt a laugh bubble in his chest, but it died when he saw the look on her face. She wasn't joking. You really believe that? He asked quietly. Her silver eyes softened, though fear still lingered in them. I do not believe, Jason, I know. You humans. Your hands remember creation. Even when the galaxy has forgotten, you still remember. Jason rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly uncomfortable. But why would that scare you? Asera hesitated. Her fingers brushed the air above the generator again, as if afraid to make contact. Then she whispered, because when everything falls apart, when systems fail, humans will still endure. You will fix what others cannot. And that kind of strength, she lowered her gaze, is both a gift and a threat. Jason had no answer. He sat in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. The next morning, Jason woke up unsettled. He had always thought of himself as just an average guy who liked tinkering. He didn't see himself as dangerous or powerful. But the way Asera had looked at him, the fear, the awe stuck in his mind. She avoided his gaze that morning, her usual calm even quieter. Jason worked on the generator a little more, but now every spark, every twist of the wrench felt heavier, as if he were doing something forbidden. Finally, he set the wrench down and looked across the room. Asera, he said softly, do you think I should stop? Should I not build anymore? Her eyes lifted to him, uncertain, almost pained. For a moment, Jason thought she might say yes, but then slowly she shook her head. No, do not stop. You must never stop. The galaxy may fear it, but it also needs it. Jason swallowed hard. Her words sounded like both a warning and a plea, and though he didn't fully understand why, a quiet fire began to burn in his chest. That night, as he lay awake staring at the ceiling, Jason couldn't help but wonder if something as simple as a homemade generator could shock someone like Asera so deeply. What would happen if the rest of the galaxy found out what humans could really do with their hands? The campus looked normal the next morning, but Jason felt different. His hands, usually steady and sure, trembled slightly as he held his wrench. Asera's words from last night echoed in his mind like a song he couldn't escape. Humans, your hands remember creation. He tried to laugh it off, tried to tell himself she was exaggerating, but every time he looked at the little generator on his desk, he saw it differently now. It wasn't just a hobby anymore. To him, it was proof of long hours, scraped knuckles, burned fingers. To her, it was a symbol of something the galaxy had forgotten. Jason never asked to carry weight like that. He just wanted to build, to make something that worked. Across the room, Asera sat in silence, her long silver hair flowing around her shoulders. She hadn't spoken much that morning. When she finally looked at him, her expression was unreadable, half admiration, half fear. You do not understand yet, she said softly. Jason sighed. Then explain it to me, please, because right now I just feel like I built a toy and you're treating it like a bomb. She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. It is not the object itself. It is what it means, Jason. Do you know how many races across the stars can create without machines guiding them? Jason shrugged. I don't know. A few, maybe? Her glowing eyes locked onto his. None, not anymore. The word hit him like a hammer. He sat back in his chair, staring at her. None? That can't be right. I mean, someone has to fix things, right? Asera's voice grew heavier. Machines fix machines. Systems repair themselves. Even our greatest engineers, they do not touch. They program, they guide, but they do not feel. What you did, cutting, shaping, guessing by sound, by sight, by instinct. Jason, it is not just unusual. It is impossible to us. Jason swallowed hard, his throat dry. So you're saying, Humans are the only ones left who still know how to build things by hand. She nodded slowly. Yes, and that terrifies many. Jason rubbed his temples. It was too much. But why be afraid of that? Isn't it a good thing? If your machines ever fail, someone has to fix them. Her face darkened. You do not understand. If humans can do what machines cannot, then humans have power the rest of the galaxy does not. Power always brings fear. Later that day, Jason walked across the campus, his backpack heavy with tools he refused to leave behind. Students of different species passed him, their strange forms moving gracefully across the courtyard. He had always felt small among them, just another human trying to keep up. But now, he felt their eyes. Maybe it was his imagination, but he swore some were watching him differently. Whispers followed him. A tall insectoid clicked its mandibles as he passed, muttering in a language he didn't understand. Two reptilian students tilted their heads, staring at his calloused hands. Jason's chest tightened. Had someone already found out? Had Asera told them? When he returned to the dorm, Asera was waiting. Her face was pale, her usual calm replaced by quiet worry. They know, she whispered before he could speak. Jason froze. What, who knows? Her eyes glistened like liquid silver. Not everyone. But word spreads quickly. Another Lume saw your work last night when I left the door open. I did not speak of it, Jason, but rumors grow on their own. Jason's stomach dropped. He slumped into his chair, running his hands through his hair. Great, so now what? Do I get kicked out for making a glorified flashlight? Asera stepped closer, her expression serious. Do not joke. They will not see it as harmless. To them, you are not a boy with a hobby. You are a symbol. Proof that humans are different. Jason looked up at her, frustration burning in his chest. Different isn't bad, Asera. Her voice broke slightly. It is when the galaxy fears change. That night, Jason tried to work again. He needed to feel the weight of the wrench in his hand, the spark of the soldering iron. It always calmed him. But tonight it didn't. Every time a spark flew, he imagined alien eyes widening in fear. Every time he tightened a bolt, he heard Asera's voice whispering, "Power always brings fear." Finally, he dropped his wrench onto the desk, the clatter echoing in the room. Maybe I should stop, he muttered. Asera turned to him sharply. No, Jason blinked. You just said they're afraid of me. Her silver eyes burned with intensity. Yes, they are afraid. But that does not mean you should stop. Jason, do you not see? You carry something my people lost long ago. Something precious. If you stop, it will be gone again. Jason stared at her. He had never seen her look so fierce, so desperate. She wasn't afraid of him now. She was afraid of losing what he represented. Silence stretched between them. Jason finally sighed, picking up the wrench again, turning it slowly in his hands. I never asked for this, he said softly. I just wanted to build because it makes me feel alive, not to scare people, not to be some symbol. Asera stepped closer, her voice low, almost trembling. No one asked to carry history, Jason, but sometimes it chooses you. Jason's chest tightened. He looked down at his rough, scarred hands, the hands of a builder, a fixer, a human. He thought of his father teaching him how to tighten bolts, of his mother smiling when he repaired an old toaster, of the pride he felt every time something broken worked again. Maybe Asera was right. Maybe it wasn't just about him anymore. The generator sat on his desk, humming softly, wires glowing faintly as if alive. Jason reached out and rested his hand on its rough surface. For the first time, he didn't see a project. He saw a message. Humans were more than just another species trying to survive among the stars. They were creators, fixers, survivors. When the galaxy forgot how to build, humans remembered. Jason looked up at Asera. Her eyes shimmered with unspoken hope, fragile but real. Then I won't stop, he said quietly. For a long moment, she simply stared at him. Then slowly she smiled. It was faint, but it lit her face like dawn. And in that moment, Jason understood. His simple equipment, his messy tools, his stubborn human hands, they weren't just his. They were humanity's, and the galaxy was about to remember. The campus was never truly quiet. It was a blend of voices, footsteps, and the strange sounds of dozens of alien races living together. But for Jason, the silence he felt inside grew heavier each day. Asera had told him the truth. People were whispering. At first, it was only glances. A look too long at his hands. A group of alien students pausing their conversation when he passed. Jason told himself he was imagining it. but the weight of those stairs pressed against him like invisible chains. Then the whispers began. He would walk across the courtyard and hear the hiss of reptilian voices behind him. That is the human. In the library, insectoid students clicked their mandibles in hushed tones. He builds. Even the professors looked at him differently, as though measuring him, wondering what else his hands could create. Jason had never felt so exposed in his life. One afternoon, it happened. Jason was leaving his engineering class, backpack heavy with tools, when a tall figure blocked his path. The alien was Zarthian, covered in dark-scaled plates, his glowing yellow eyes glaring down at Jason. Two more Zarthians stood behind him, their sharp tails swaying slowly like predators preparing to strike. "You are Jason," the leader said. His voice was deep, rumbling through the air. Jason froze. "Yeah, can I help you?" The Zarthian leaned closer, his breath hot and metallic. "We have heard the rumors, that you make things with your hands, that you create what should not be created." Jason's heart pounded. He gripped the strap of his backpack tightly. "It's not what you think. I just build for myself, for fun." The alien's eyes narrowed. "For fun? Do you take us for fools? Do you mean to arm your kind? Is this the start of human rebellion?" Jason felt anger spark in his chest. "No, I don't even own a weapon. I'm just a student, same as you," the Zarthian hissed, sharp teeth glinting. "Lies. No one makes machines without the aid of programs. No one, except you. That makes you dangerous." Jason stepped back, but his voice was steady. "I'm not dangerous. I'm human, and this is just what we do." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the Zarthian spat on the ground at Jason's feet. "Your kind will bring ruin. Remember this." He turned sharply, his companions following like shadows. Jason stood frozen, his fists clenched so tightly his nails dug into his palms. His chest burned with a mix of fear and fury. That evening, Jason slammed the door to his room. Sarah looked up from her tablet, startled by his storming footsteps. "They confronted me today," Jason said, throwing his bag onto the floor. "3 Zarthians. They think I'm building weapons. They think humans are plotting some rebellion." Sarah's silver eyes widened, then softened with sadness. "I feared this would happen." Jason turned to her, frustration spilling out. "Why? Why do they assume the worst?" "It's just a generator, Sarah. A stupid, ugly generator. Why does it scare them so much?" She stood slowly, her expression heavy. "Because they cannot understand. To them, power comes from systems, from perfection. You created power without either. That is something they cannot control. And what cannot be controlled is feared." Jason sank onto his bed, his head in his hands. "So what am I supposed to do, stop? Pretend I don't know how to use a wrench? Pretend I don't care?" Sarah's voice softened. "I cannot decide for you. But Jason, I must warn you. The more they fear, the more they will try to silence you." Her words chilled him. The next day, Jason received a message to report to the campus administration office. His stomach sank as he walked through the polished halls. A pair of security drones hovered at the entrance, their cold lenses following him as he entered. Inside, the Dean of Alien Relations sat behind a long glass desk. The Dean was a tall Avoran, feathers shimmering in blue and green, eyes sharp like knives. He gestured for Jason to sit. "Jason of Earth," the Dean began, his voice smooth but cold. "Concerns have been raised regarding your activities," Jason swallowed. "I didn't do anything wrong. I just built something small for myself." The Dean's feathers ruffled slightly. "You constructed advanced technology by hand. Without authorization, without replication permits. Do you understand the danger of such acts?" Jason clenched his fists. "It's not dangerous. It's just a generator. I wasn't hurting anyone." The Dean leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Intent does not matter. Symbolism does. Other students see what you have done. They whisper, they fear. Some even demand your removal from this campus. Do you understand why?" Jason's voice shook, but he forced the words out. "Because I can build what they can't." Silence hung in the office. Finally, the Dean spoke again. "If you wish to remain here, you will cease these experiments. Your tools will be confiscated. Your projects dismantled. Do you agree to these terms?" Jason felt the world crash around him. His tools were his life, his escape, his identity. And now they wanted to take it all away. That evening, Jason sat silently at his desk, staring at the dismantled pieces of his generator. His hands itched to rebuild, but the tools were gone. The desk felt empty, like a piece of his soul had been stripped away. Sarah stood nearby, her face pale with guilt. "Jason, I am so sorry." He shook his head slowly. "It's not your fault, it's me. It's what I am." Her voice cracked. "I never told anyone. But my people see differently. They sense differently. Perhaps they felt it in the air when you built. Perhaps they saw it in your hands. I do not know, but now, it cannot be undone." Jason looked at her, his chest heavy with despair. "Why do they fear us so much, Sarah? Why can't they just let us be?" Her silver eyes shimmered with sorrow. "Because when everything collapses, Jason, when the perfect systems fail, only humans will know how to rise again. And that terrifies them." Jason stared at his rough, empty hands. For the first time in his life, he wished he didn't know how to build. But deep inside, beneath the fear and the anger, a quiet fire still burned. He wasn't sure yet what it meant, but he knew this. No matter what they took from him, no one could take away what it meant to be human. Jason woke up the next morning to silence. His desk, once alive with tools, wires, and scraps of metal, now looked dead. The campus security had taken everything: his wrench, his soldering iron, even the old, half-rusted screwdriver he had brought from Earth. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his empty hands. They felt useless now, stripped of purpose. His fingers, once strong and confident, now only trembled with frustration. Across the room, Sarah watched him quietly. She had tried to say something the night before, but Jason had gone to sleep without a word. Now she spoke softly, as though afraid her voice might break him. "Jason, will you eat something?" He shook his head. "Not hungry. You cannot starve yourself. Humans are fragile." Jason gave a bitter laugh. "Fragile? That's all they see, isn't it? Weak little humans who shouldn't even be here." Sarah's silver eyes lowered. "Not weak, different." Jason looked at her sharply. "Different gets you expelled. Different gets you feared. Different gets your hands tied so you can't even be yourself anymore." His voice cracked as anger gave way to despair. "If I can't build, Sarah, then what am I?" The days passed like shadows. Jason went to class, sat in silence, and left as soon as the lecture ended. He stopped visiting the workshop, because what was the point if he had no tools? His friends, what few he had, kept their distance. The whispers grew louder now, not even trying to hide. That's him. The dangerous one. The human who builds. He tried to ignore them, but the words burrowed into his chest like thorns. At night, Jason lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He thought of Earth, of his father showing him how to fix an old engine, of his mother smiling when he repaired the broken fan in their kitchen. He thought of long summers spent building little machines from junk, the pride in his chest every time something actually worked. Those memories felt like another lifetime now. Here, in this place of perfect systems and flawless machines, he was an outcast. One evening, Sarah returned from her class to find Jason gone. His bed was empty, his desk untouched. Fear surged in her chest as she ran through the halls, searching. Finally, she found him outside, sitting alone near the edge of the campus gardens. The twin moons above cast pale light over him. He sat hunched, his knees drawn up, staring at the ground as though the weight of the whole galaxy pressed upon his shoulders. "Jason," Sarah whispered, kneeling beside him. "Why are you out here?" He didn't look at her. His voice was hollow. "I thought, maybe if I sat still enough I'd stop existing. Maybe then their problem would disappear." Her heart broke at his words. "Do not say that. You are not a problem." Jason turned to her then, his eyes wet and red. "Sarah, I don't belong here. Every day they remind me. They don't want me. They don't trust me. And now I can't even do the one thing that made me feel alive." His hands shook as he lifted them. "Look at these. They used to mean something. Now they're just empty." Sarah reached forward and gently held his trembling hands. "No, Jason, they are not empty. They are human." Jason tried to pull away, but she held on tighter, her silver eyes burning with emotion. "You do not understand what you are," she said firmly. "My people, all people here, are born into systems that guide them, protect them, control them. We never question how things are made or why. We only use what is given. But you, Jason, you make, you imagine. You give life to what was dead." Jason shook his head. "And that's why they hate me." "No," Sarah whispered. "That is why they fear you." "But fear is not the end. Fear can also mean respect, even awe. They do not know it yet, but one day, they will need you." Her words pierced his despair, but he didn't want to hope. What if I can't? What if I'm not strong enough? Asera's voice softened, trembling now with her own emotion. You're already strong. Do you think weakness is in building machines? No, weakness is giving up when the world tells you to stop. And Jason. She lifted his hand and pressed it gently against her chest. You have not given up yet. I can feel it. Your fire is still alive. Jason's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Not his teachers, not his friends back home, not anyone. For the first time since his tools were taken, he felt something inside flicker back to life. The next day, Jason walked through campus differently. The whispers were still there, the stares still sharp, but he kept his head up. His hands were empty, yes, but he began to notice things others didn't. The air filters near the dining hall hummed unevenly, like they hadn't been cleaned in weeks. The water dispensers sputtered now and then, a sign of low pressure. The lift in his dorm hesitated every third floor, its system struggling with strain. The campus was perfect only on the surface. Beneath, things broke. Things always broke. Jason smiled faintly. Machines didn't care about rumors. They only cared about hands willing to fix them. That night, Jason and Asera sat together in their room. Jason held a small piece of scrap metal he had found near the engineering hall. It wasn't much, just a bent fragment, but he rolled it between his fingers like a secret treasure. I'm not done, he said quietly. Asera looked up from her tablet. What do you mean? Jason's eyes burned with determination. They can take my tools. They can take my desk, but they can't take this. He lifted the scrap, his voice steady now. They can't take what's in my head. They can't take my hands. For the first time in days, Asera smiled. A real bright smile. Yes, that is the Jason I know. Jason leaned back, feeling lighter. He wasn't free yet, not by a long shot. But the fire was back. And this time, he would not let it die. That night, as he drifted to sleep, Jason dreamed of machines again. Not the perfect ones of the aliens, but messy, stubborn, human machines built from scraps powered by will, kept alive by hands that refused to quit. And in his dream, those machines did not just work. They roared. The days after Jason's decision were heavy with tension. Everyone thought he had given up after his tools were taken. But inside, he had made a promise to himself. He would not stop being who he was. At first, he did nothing. He went to class, ate in silence, and returned to his room. But his sharp eyes noticed things the others ignored. The air vents rattled. The lifts trembled. Even the big recycling machines near the garden made odd clanking sounds. Aliens walked past without worry. For them, systems never failed. They had grown up believing machines lasted forever, as if they were untouchable gods. Jason, however, knew better. He had grown up with rust, with oil-stained fingers, with machines that needed constant fixing. And every time he saw something broken, his hands itched to repair it. One night, Jason couldn't resist anymore. He sneaked into the corridor near the dining hall, where the air filter groaned like an old man's chest. The guard lights glowed faintly, but the hallway was empty. He removed the panel with nothing more than a bent spoon he had sharpened on a stone. Inside, dust clogged the filter. The fans whirred weakly, suffocating under the load. Jason coughed but smiled. He dug out the dirt with his fingers, then adjusted the fan's balance using the spoon as leverage. It wasn't perfect, but when he powered it back on, the machine hummed like new. The next morning, everyone noticed the air felt cleaner. The aliens were pleased, but none questioned how it happened. They assumed the system had fixed itself. Jason said nothing. Soon he fixed more things. A water dispenser that refused to fill cups, a dorm light that flickered endlessly, a heating panel that gave up during the night. With scraps and clever hands, Jason worked in secret, always in the shadows, and slowly whispers changed. Some aliens said, "The humans break things," but others began to whisper, "The humans fix things." Jason felt the difference. For the first time in weeks, hope returned. But not everyone was happy. One evening, a Zarthian named Vero cornered him outside the dorm. Vero's body shimmered with scales, his four eyes burning with suspicion. "You," Vero hissed. "You have been touching the systems." Jason froze, then forced himself to stay calm. "They were broken. I just fixed them." Vero leaned closer, his voice sharp. "That is not allowed. Machines repair themselves. That is the rule, Jason clenched his fists. Then why didn't they? Why did everyone keep breathing dirty air until I cleaned the filter? The alien snarled, but he had no answer. Instead, he spat, "You are dangerous. You make the others trust you, but you will bring disaster." Then he walked away. Jason stood alone under the dim lights, his heart heavy. Was he really helping, or was he digging his own grave? Later in their room, Sarah noticed his troubled face. "What happened?" she asked. Jason hesitated, then told her about Vero. Sarah listened quietly, then said, "He fears you, Jason, but do you know why?" Jason shook his head. "Because you remind him of something he cannot do. You remind all of them. You show them weakness they do not want to admit." Jason sighed. "I don't want to scare them, I can't stand watching things break and pretending nothing's wrong." Sarah smiled gently. "That is your nature. You heal the broken, even when it is not your duty. That is not danger, that is hope." Jason looked at her and for the first time in days felt lighter. Then the crisis came. It was late evening when alarms blared across the campus. Students ran through the halls, voices filled with panic. A message flashed across every screen. "Reactor instability detected. Power systems failing. Evacuate immediately." Jason's blood turned cold. He had studied enough systems to know what that meant. If the reactor collapsed, the campus would lose life support. Oxygen, heat, water, everything would die. Aliens rushed out in chaos, their perfect order shattered. Jason grabbed Sarah's arm. "Where's the reactor?" She stared at him in shock. "Jason, no, you cannot. It is too dangerous." He looked at her, determination burning in his eyes. "If I don't, we all die." The reactor hall was massive, glowing with sickly red lights. Panels flickered, alarms screamed. The great power core in the center pulsed violently, cracks spreading across its surface. Alien engineers stood frozen, staring at the failing machine. Some tried to use control panels, but the system rejected their commands. They had no idea what to do. Jason pushed through the crowd. "Move," he shouted. "You're wasting time." A tall engineer snapped, "Human, this is not your place." Jason ignored him and climbed onto the platform. He scanned the system, his heart pounding. Pipes rattled, valves leaked steam, wires sparked dangerously. He had no tools, but he didn't need them. His mind raced, mapping the machine like a puzzle. "Overload in the coolant line," he muttered. Valve stuck. "Pressure's building." He grabbed a loose rod from the floor, jammed it into the valve wheel, and forced it open with all his strength. Steam hissed out, burning his arms, but the pressure dropped slightly. "Not enough," he gasped. "Need to reroute power." He ripped open a panel, exposing wires. Sparks bit into his skin as he twisted them together with his bare hands. The lights flickered. The core steadied for a moment, then shuddered again. Jason's body screamed in pain, but he kept moving, fixing, forcing, creating. The machine roared, alive under his hands. Finally, with one last pull of the valve, the core's glow softened. The alarm slowed, then stopped. The reactor hummed, stable once more. Jason collapsed to his knees, his hands blackened with burns, his chest heaving. Silence filled the hall. Dozens of alien eyes stared at him. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Sarah ran forward, her face pale with fear and relief. She knelt beside him, holding his scorched hands. Tears shimmered in her silver eyes. "Jason, you saved us." Jason tried to smile, his voice hoarse. "Told you. Machines don't fix themselves." Around them, whispers rose. But this time, they were different. No fear, no hatred, only awe. He repaired the reactor. With his hands. "A human saved us." Jason closed his eyes, exhausted. But inside, he felt something stronger than pain. He felt proud, because in that moment the galaxy had seen the truth. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not useless. Humans were builders, and builders could save worlds. Jason woke to the faint hum of medical machines. His arms were bandaged, his skin aching where steam and sparks had burned him. For a moment, he thought he was back on Earth in some hospital. But then the ceiling above him glowed with alien lights, and the strange, sweet scent of Lume healing gels filled his nose. He sat up slowly, wincing at the pain. The room was quiet, but not empty. Sarah sat at his side, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. She had not slept. He could see the exhaustion in her eyes, yet when she noticed him awake, her face lit up with relief. "You stubborn human," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You nearly killed yourself." Jason managed a weak smile. Better me than all of us. She reached for his hand, careful of the bandages. You should not speak lightly of such things. Then her voice softened even more. But you were brave. You saved them all. Jason lowered his gaze. Not brave, just who I am. The door hissed open and several figures entered. Alien leaders, professors, even the dean himself. Their eyes were sharp, their movements heavy with the weight of what had happened. Jason felt their stares like knives, and for a moment his chest tightened. Would they punish him again? Would they call him a threat? The dean stepped forward, his tall frame wrapped in flowing robes. He studied Jason for a long time, then spoke. The reactor is stable. Lives were saved. For this, the campus owes you gratitude. Jason swallowed hard. I didn't do it for gratitude. I did it because no one else knew how. Murmurs rippled through the room.